This is our first lesson of Algebra 1. Lesson 1.1, Evaluate Expressions. The first thing we need to do is learn a little vocabulary. I know it is not always fun to learn vocabulary in math, but it's going to help us if we all speak the same language and we know what we mean together. So a couple little things, and some of this you already know, but I'm still going to go through it. Variables. Variable is a letter, or letters, since we made it plural, which represent numbers. And they can represent either one number or more numbers. And the word variable gives you a clue, right, that it can vary. So, and you've seen before, typically we'll see X, but we'll also see Y, or M, or N, or A, etc. A variable can be any letter that represents one or more numbers. An expression are things you've been doing since you were little. This 5 plus 1 is an exception, is an expression, pardon me, and it consists of numbers and operators. Operators being plus or minus or division or multiplication. It becomes an algebraic expression as soon as you add a variable. So 5 plus x is an algebraic expression. So algebraic expressions are really going to be fundamental to this whole class, and we'll see why. Essentially, we're going to be building models that describe different things that you'll find that occur in daily life. Models for how money increases over time, for how people build bridges, for how profits increase over time. So these are, algebra is where you start to use math to apply to daily life. Let's start with very, very simple examples. Again, you've seen these before. We'll go quickly. So this is going to be example 1. And we're just going to do what's called evaluate an expression. And evaluate, anytime you see evaluate, it means find the answer, basically. So evaluate the expression. And we're going to have a few different examples. One is, what is 13 times n? You can't evaluate it unless somebody tells you what n is, right? Because otherwise you're stuck, because n could be anything. When somebody tells you, okay, evaluate 13 times n when n equals 3, then you know right away you've got something that you can do. 13 times 3 is 39. Similarly, if you're told again to evaluate 9 divided by n, where n equals 3, then you know that 9 divided by 3, which is n in this situation, is 3. So evaluating an expression is putting a number in for the variable and telling what the answer is if that variable is, in this case, the number 3. We could try the number 2, we could try the number 1, but right now they've specified evaluate this. The number is 3. So I'm going to sprinkle throughout these lessons little examples for you to do, and this will be your homework to hand in to my class. So right now I'm going to ask you to do guided practice, abbreviated GP, numbers 2 and 3 on page 2 of your textbook and hand those in. Next, I'm going to go on to example 2. So you could pause now and do these and then start up the video in a minute as I go on to the next example. Example 2. Again, evaluate an expression. In this situation, the only difference between this and the previous problem is this is a word problem, which I will read you from the book. The total cost of seeing a movie at a theater can be represented by the expression A plus R. So I'm going to abbreviate what I'm reading: total cost seeing movie, with an arrow, and they're saying it's abbreviated as total cost, and we'll call that C, and they've told you that's A plus R. So this is an algebraic expression, right? Where that will tell you A is the cost of admissions, right? In other words, your ticket. And R is refreshments. In other words, what snacks you're going to get. And however much you pay is the total. Well, you can't evaluate this expression, right, unless somebody tells you what does this movie theater cost. But if I tell you that admission was $7.50, it used to be cheaper in the old days, and the refreshments were $7.25, now you can find your total cost. You're going to substitute $7.50 for A and $7.25 for R. And you're going to find that your total cost is $14.75. All right, so that is evaluating expressions. And I'm going to change gears right now because the second part of this lesson is really all about powers. So just to make sure that I'm not mixing things, I'm going to stop this portion of the lesson, and I'm going to just pause here and ask you to switch to the next video to finish 1.1.